There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome into false start. I apologize. Welcome into the Rant. I am Pugs Moran. We do this every day, Monday through Friday, around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But who knows? We could just, pop up at any old time. Probably not early morning, but, started doing the show 4 years ago. It was a noon show, and now it's a 2 o'clock show. So progress. We do the show here from the Kelly Moore Memorial Studios in the beautiful E-Gallery in Dallas's fabulous design district. Welcome. Let's say hi to the chat room. Who was first in today? I think it was Peter. Peter was first in the chat room. Then we got Barney. I see Taranda. I see Adam. Okay, everybody's coming. We need more than that, though. Oh, God. It says I got one person. It says I got one person watching. Right? Oh, there we go. All right, never mind. I was like, there's like five. I just named 5 people in the chat room. What? Now we're caught up. All right. It affects me. It affects me. We have a very small listenership here. It's never groaned. That's a bummer. I put that on you people. You people must not have enough friends that you just speak endlessly about this show that you've been listening to for 4 years. I'm out of excuses. What do we do here? Well, it's a stream of consciousness talk show, right? The way talk radio used to be. It's not overly political. It's more just one guy commenting on life. Sometimes politics do come in and, I have to take positions that some of you radicalized out there, you might be offended by, or some of you might be, he's one of us. Oh, rest assured, I'm not. I am one of one. I am me. I am with 70% of the Americans out there who find themselves in the middle, unable to stomach the craziness on the right and unable to stomach the equally insane left. So we gather here, all 50 of us a day or whatever it is, but we do it. We talk about current events. Today, we're going to talk about, let me get into the stuff we're going to talk about today. Let me see. What am I going to rant on today? Well, obviously, we got to talk about the situation going on in D.C., Washington, D.C. President Trump is sending troops in there. A lot of people are pearl clutching over this. A lot of other people are, yay, we're taking America back. Yeah, we'll do, I'm not going to say a deep dive because I don't want to say deep dive anymore. I heard like 15 people over the weekend talk about how they're doing deep dives. And I'm like, it's a word I used to like to use. No, it's a cliche. But we're going to talk about all the different angles of the government sending troops in and President Trump sending troops in, National Guard, FBI, whatever, to clean up Washington, D.C. We were a little bit late coming on today because right at 2 o'clock, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, every time I hear her name, it's like I just want the guy from Sha-Na-Na to come out. Anyway, Mayor Muriel Bowser of the great District of Columbia, I guess that's how you'd say it. She came out and she just made a speech about what's happening in her city in the federalization. She seemed a little scared. Got to be honest. She was not. Look, the libs, and I don't even know if she's a lib. I mean, she's a black female mayor of Washington, D.C., right? So it probably doesn't take a rocket scientist to go, she's not MAGA. But if I'm being honest, I have no idea what her political ideal. I don't know what she is. Okay. Yes, she's a Democrat, but let's just stop making all Democrats evil. Anyway, she just made a speech. She seemed a little scared. Democrats in the past, they would, this is an outrage and this is anti-American. She wasn't like that. She was more like, well, you can do this in certain situations, but I want to present the facts. So we'll talk all about that, both sides. Trump takes over D.C. because it's worse than Istanbul. I don't know what cities he named. He named a bunch of cities. And I'm like, in no way Washington, D.C. is worse than, some Central African capital. There's no way. No way. They got Starbucks and stuff in Washington. How bad can it be? We're also going to talk about Epstein today, every day. Every day I'm going to have something new. There's big breaking news. concerning the courts and what we're allowed to see and all that stuff. So Epstein update. Plus, additionally, we're going to do I found this really interesting article about Ghislaine Maxwell, who just went from a hardcore prison to a pretty nice one by prison standards. Found an interview with her cellie as they call them. Found an interview with her cellie there at the former prison, and she tells us exactly what Ghislaine is like. So that'll be fun. We'll find out what day-to-day life for Ghislaine was like when she was in the bad prison. You know, the prison that's designed to house global sex traffickers. All right, so we'll do that. What else do I want to talk about today? Okay, we did the Epstein stuff. Definitely always want to talk about the Epstein stuff. We did the DC takeover. Oh, how about this? Might this bring me back to the UFC? I used to be a big fan of the UFC, as many of you know. Like back in the 2000s, I think we were the first show in Dallas to actually take listeners filled with buses to UFC fights. We approached them and they're like, really? We know radio wants to do that. We took people to Bossier City back in like 2002. We also did one that was in Austin. Almost got a Vegas one. Didn't get that put together though. Anyway, I used to be a big fan of the UFC. I've since become not a fan. I'd say over the last 5 years for real, I've completely lost interest in it because it's just nothing but decisions. The UFC used to be finishes. It used to be people getting choked out, put to sleep, or KO'd. Now, everybody knows how to counter everybody else's moves, and every single fight goes to a decision, and it's just like a bunch of cauliflower-eared thugs dancing with each other for 3 rounds. So that's kind of why I drifted away from it. I'm like, this ain't fun anymore. Well, maybe I come back, and maybe you do too, if you were someone like me who left, because it's now going to be free. Well, not entirely. Big news in the UFC. They're moving away from their pay-per-view platform model, and they've struck a deal with Paramount. That's right, Paramount's on a spending spree, so we'll talk about that story. Also, another interesting cultural phenomena I want to talk about today, golf cart culture. Do you own a golf cart? I guess is my question for you. Because more and more Americans now own a golf cart. Golf cart culture is taking over suburbia. Is it legal? Not everywhere. Not everywhere. Some people are against it. So we're going to talk about that. I want to really kind of figure out whether or not I have a problem with golf cart culture or not. Because I go back and forth. When I see one in my neighborhood, let me tell you, my neighborhood is lousy with family with golf carts. Whenever I see one, I'm like, God, my initial programming is, God, look at these people doing something different. Ah! But do I really feel that way? I don't know. We'll talk about the emerging force of golf cart culture here in suburban America. Also, we're going to talk about a bunch of other things that happened over the weekend. Some of the things I thought were interesting that we could bring on. Like, for instance, did you see this little kid umpire? Did you see this? Oh, my God. We got to talk about the little kid umpire at the Cubs-Cardinals game all weekend. Ugh. We got video. Look. Again, this might be programming. This might just be a result of my 50-something years on this planet, and I'm steeped in cynicism. We'll talk about the little kid. Also, we'll watch that NASCAR driver. Hear about the NASCAR driver? Connor Zilich, I think is his name. Oh, my God. Crazy video. He hurt himself. He won the race and then hurt himself. We've got video of that, plus a whole bunch more. All right, so that's the ins and the outs of what we're going to talk about today. Adam is in the chat room. What is Adam talking about in the chat room? He says here, your kids are almost Gen Alpha, April. Save for your older ones. This is a conversation that I have a lot. Like my kid is Gen Z. He's 16 years old. But he's barely Gen Z. Like he is like the last year or one of the last years of Gen Z. He is not going to be completely molded by the cultural sort of experiences of Gen Z. I think he's probably going to experience more of what Gen Alpha is all about. So I guess they call them cusps. I don't know why we're talking about this. Other than I always argue with, the two kids that I see most frequently, which is my son and Dominic, about what generation they are. That's Adam making it clear here says ages 15 and below are Gen Alpha. Yeah, my kid's 6. He's right on the cusp there. Which is weird because I'm Gen Z, or Gen X, but I'm not on the cusp, and I'm also a 9. Well, it's because it's every 15 years, I guess. You don't need to do that math. All right, who else do we have here? Let's see here. April's kids are 17 and 23. They're definitely Gen Zers. What is the oldest Gen Zer? 40 almost? When was Gen Z born? Like 98? Is that Gen Z? I don't know. Never mind. I don't care. I don't want to get bogged down in generational cohort talk. What else are my people in the chat room saying? All right. Barney's got a hot take on the kid umpire. I like that. He says, unless the kid umpire has extra chromosomes or cancer, there's no excuse for his parents to allow it. Barney's cynical like me. I'm just wondering if that's the best opinion to go public with. I don't know. All right, what do you say we get started here? Let's just get into all the things we're going to talk about. First and foremost, we'll talk about the president of these here United States who made another one of his bonkers press conferences. It was awesome. The Donald Trump show, man, every mid-morning. Not every, but it should be. If this show was on, I understand why The View is being canceled. That's what I hear. I don't know if it's been made official by ABC, but I would rather watch President Trump trot out, a bunch of frightened hostage type secretary members on stage and then just, blurt out nonsense for an hour. That is like the best show on TV. He's hysterical. You can't say that this president isn't funny. However, today's conversation was it's serious. Look, objectively, it's pretty serious when the president of the United States talks about taking over the law enforcement of an American city, even if that American city is a fringe American city. I don't even know what District of Columbia is. I know they got kind of a shitty deal. Like their deal is that they're autonomous, but and hold on. Why won't this go up anymore? All right. Their deal is that they have autonomy as their own sort of district, and they've got no wait, they have autonomy or they're ruled by Congress. I don't even know what DC is. Doesn't matter. They got a mayor. We look at it like it's New York or Philly, so let's just move forward with that. It's an American city. It's being taken over. Now, how does this happen? People are like, how does this happen? Because just a couple of weeks ago, we were going through this with Los Angeles, where he's like, I'm sending in the feds. And then there were all of these things being shouted like, that's unconstitutional and blah, blah, blah. Well, so there is a difference between DC and other American cities, which is probably why he's doing it first in DC. Because you see in DC, or I should say with the states, the president of the United States can only take over law enforcement in states or cities within states. 3 situations, right? Rebellion, insurrection, or they're not enforcing federal laws. We saw that with the schools in Alabama and Mississippi, right, where they sent the feds in to integrate the schools. All right, so that's an example of that. So that's with states, but apparently, that's not the case with the District of Columbia. Apparently, the president just needs to sign something, and he can be in charge there. So less strings attached to the federalization of Washington, D.C. Law enforcement than there is with any other city that's within the boundaries of a state. Okay, so that's how he's able to do it. And that's also why Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C., the mayor there, it's kind of why she's like, yeah, my hands are kind of tied. She's taking questions right now. I'm watching her. Hold on, let's listen.
The executive order, as is the home rule charter, is pretty clear that the directives the requests have to be related to federal purposes.
And can I ask, the president threatened to use not just the National Guard, but the military to bring
Question is, the president threatened to use military, not just National Guard. This is a question to Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C.
So as you know, we've been following the story today about the president bringing back what he says law and order to our nation.
All right, there you go. Never mind. They're going to cut away. We're not going to get her answer. Now, I don't know what drew his attention to Washington, D.C. I mean, it might just be him running to the 7-Eleven. Like, that's a thing. Like, he runs to the 7-Eleven and he sees a bunch of black kids hanging out in front. I say black kids because it's Washington, D.C. And all I've seen ever about Washington, D.C. is that it's a 100% black city, except for the president, of course. A few years back between 08 and 12, all things were black in Washington, D.C., but not anymore. It's not a race. It's just an observation. It's not a racist observation. It's a racial observation. From what I have seen, it seems that Washington, D.C. is a predominantly black city. All right, so Trump is going to go in there. He's going to send the troops, going to send the National Guard. They're already mobilizing. There's pictures all over the internet of, supposedly this. Also, FBI agents are now going to be on ride-alongs with regular cops, regular Washington, D.C. cops, which is kind of weird because those are two completely different skill sets. Like, FBI agents, the only time that they encounter somebody is when they've done a huge investigation. They have their beliefs, like, oh, this guy's guilty of this and this is what he's going to be charged with. And then they go arrest this guy. But like traffic stops and stuff, like FBI, okay, that's interesting. Fun. Don't know why. Traffic, really? Okay. What else are some of the things? Well, look, so being honest, we could in this country have far less violent crime. I think we can all agree that we could all do with far less violent crime. But honestly, as an American, I'm not concerned about being carjacked in Washington, D.C. I'm not. I can stay away from those neighborhoods. I can stay away from, and let's be honest, mostly we're talking about the crime stats. They all come from the same neighborhoods in the same cities. I know Chicago's been a victim of that for years. It's like, Chicago, they had 13 shootings last weekend. And I'm like, yeah, but Chicago's a really big place. And if you're traveling there for a Cubs game in August, you're nowhere near where this all happened. It's in the neighborhood. I always used to say, like, Englewood is always the place that they point to in Chicago. Englewood is on the south side. Englewood is within 2 miles from where I grew up. I've never been. I just never go there. So, and look, that's white entitlement. That's exactly what that is. I didn't go there because I didn't have to go there. Imagine if I had to live there, I'd probably have a much different attitude towards it. So at least I'm recognizing that my, middle-class upbringing afforded me the comfort of avoiding an entire neighborhood in my city that was just a couple of blocks away. So I think we can all agree that maybe that's not the best thing. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just travel from one neighborhood to the next in all of these American cities and not have to worry about suddenly, roll your windows up and lock your doors through this one? Gang crime, right? That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about gang crime. We're talking about drug dealers shooting it out on street corners over territory. We're talking about, people taking the wrong turn off the interstate and getting carjacked in some neighborhood they had no intention of being in. These are the kinds of crimes that we are talking about that are occurring in Washington, D.C. And I got to be honest with you. As an American citizen, I am far less worried about being carjacked in one of America's major cities than I am just catching a stray because some dude went off his meds at the Target store. That is the American crime that I think is far more pressing because we can't control that. I can control never going into certain neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. I can control, you hear these stories about mass shootings. There's a mass shooting at a backyard barbecue in Atlanta. I'm not going there. I can control that. What I can't control is picking up my kid after work and being shot in a parking lot at closing time. Because some guy, some well-armed psychopath decides that, he doesn't like the way the politics in this country are working. So he's going to kill a whole bunch of people. I'm far more concerned about that. But there is absolutely zero attention being paid to that other than, oh, it's a mental illness problem, which it is. And, at least I'll take that. That's the start of a conversation. But we're talking about in cities like Washington, D.C., New York, and name check Chicago as being next, Los Angeles. I'm not as afraid of that kind of crime. And again, white entitlement. But, you can drum it up. I've got real beliefs on this. Like I got real strong. These are all poverty crimes. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about poverty crimes. I'm not as worried about poverty crimes as I am about, mental illness, crazy people just deciding to take out 50 shoppers at Christmas time. So that aside, let's deal with the one they're giving us today, which is street crime in big cities. Okay. I got to say this. I'm not completely against this. Now, I know that there are a whole bunch of, we're being overwhelmed now by statistics. Crime is actually down in Washington, D.C. If you look at it, murders are down, and those were misleading, the stats that he was saying. Okay. We got a real problem in this country with the way people are behaving. And it really is mayhem out there in those streets. Just before I came in here today, I was joking about this, and I think I played some videos last week. There is a account on Twitter called something like Texas Street Fights or something. And it's been around for years. And it started out, just focusing on 6th Street in Austin, because apparently they block off 6th Street every weekend and there's just massive, crazy fights. And it's always the same looking people. Maybe that's just this generation. Maybe this generation just looks like the kind of people that'll do this. But if you've watched these videos, maybe it's just young people. See, this is what I keep going back to. I don't remember when I was young. I don't remember there being an area in Chicago, be it Rush Street, Division Street, somewhere up on, Lincoln Avenue, Wrigleyville. I don't remember Southside, Bridgeport. I don't remember there being an area that was just a free fall for fist fights all night long, the way 6th Street in Austin seems to be. And I thought, my first thought is, well, we didn't have cameras back then. And, you got into some fights. I did. I got into a lot of fights. I hung out with guys who, get drunk, and if somebody says the wrong thing, they were going to fight. Where's Tim going? Oh, he's going to the parking lot. He's going to beat some dude up. Oh, geez, here we go. But I don't remember anything like the absolute mayhem. Here, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Hold on. What is it? All right. And it doesn't matter. It's like every weekend. Every freaking week. All right, here you go. This was just this past weekend. All right, let's see this one. Just watch this. All right, here you go. This is just this weekend down there on 6th Street. This happens this account has been around for years. I've been watching these videos for years. This is the state of our streets in 2025. These are dirtbag animals. These people are animals. I watch these with my kid who's 16 years old, okay, who's a very aggressive 16-year-old. He laughs at these people, thankfully. And look, this is not me going, oh, my kid's better than... No, but what I do know is that my kid's not a fucking animal. Fucking animals. bunch of stupid, young, drunk fucking animals and their whore girlfriends. That's what's on the streets of Austin, Texas, every goddamn Friday and Saturday night. Probably Thursday nights too, okay? So, now let's go back to the situation in Washington, D.C., where people are just pulling guns and shooting people over fucking whatever. Get out of your car. No, boom, you're dead. Fucking animals. And I keep going back. To when I was a kid. And I say, but we didn't have video. We couldn't record all the crazy shit that went on. But seriously, in my life, there were probably only 5 instances of recordable material or experiences that I was in. That if there was such a thing as Twitter back in 1990, maybe it would have gone viral because that fight was crazy. But again, only like 5 accounts in like 25 years, like 5. Every single Friday and Saturday night in Austin, this is happening. And Austin is not the only place this is happening. We have somehow lost total control of civilized society. And for a while, we were able to just sweep it into neighborhoods we didn't want to go to or turn a blind eye to it because you know what? 6th Street, that's a bunch of drunk partiers anyway. And I'm not sitting here pretending like there has never been a problem with violence in our streets. I sit here, a man raised without a father because my father was gunned down on the streets of Chicago in 1970. Okay? So violence has always been around. I just question the consistency in the the prolific creation of violence. And again, I go back to, we're just recording it now, so we're seeing it more. I don't think that's the case. I think that we just have a completely demented sense of what a civilized society is, okay? So when I watch those Austin street fight videos from just 48 hours ago, when I watch those, I think, how do you control that? The problem I have with the Austin street fight videos is that there's like an army of cops. Their entire job is to just walk around the street, 6th Street, from beginning to end with whistles. And when they happen upon a situation like what we just saw, they just start blowing their whistles. Well, guess what happens when the fighters start hearing the whistles? Oftentimes, they just stop and disappear into the crowd. That's how Austin's police department has determined that's the best way to deal with this. They should be fucking arresting every single person every single night. Is the National Guard needed on 6th Street to stop that bullshit? Absolutely, I think it is. But we don't care. We don't care. That's funny. That's video. That's funny. Okay, so now let's turn to entire cities that are showing some of the same behavior that we see on 6th Street in Austin with Texas fights or whatever that is. There are guys, there are parts of the south side of Chicago where I grew up where I just would never go, ever. You always tell people when they're coming down to like a certain area, hey, you better know where you're going because you don't want to get lost in some of those neighborhoods. You don't want to accidentally make a wrong turn on 159th Street. Off of 57. Find yourselves in Robbins or Ford Heights. Yeah, just. And we've always kind of accepted that. You know, it was always kind of like, well, you know, that's just the way it is in America. There are certain places where you can't go, you'll get killed. So why do we accept that? I mean, this president, and I'm not a crazy over-the-top law and order guy, and I got a lot of problems with the way this president institutes a lot of these things. But I do believe that it is time for drastic measures to be taken when it comes to violence in our streets. I mean, we have a constitution. These people all have rights, and I get that. And then, you know, the next step, the next thing you start thinking is, well, are we going to throw this kid in jail for the rest of his life? I mean, look at where he came from. Foster system, crackhead parents. See, that's the empathy side. That's where people who are empathetic and thoughtful, that's where they start to, you know, go, oh, well, you know, maybe he doesn't need to be in prison. Maybe he doesn't need, maybe cashless bond. That's another thing that President Trump was talking about, which he's absolutely right. So a dude carjacks my wife. I'm not married, but a kid carjacks my wife, right? Beats her up a little, steals her car. You're telling me he can get out of prison without anybody having to put up anything tangible as far as like a mortgage or a home or a car title or something? Why? Well, because we just don't have the space in prisons. Well, then build more fucking prisons. Oh, now you're talking about the industrial prison complex and their stranglehold over corporate America and the political system. Okay, well, that shouldn't stop the fact that we got people who are bashing people's heads in the streets, and they need to go sit in a cell for a little bit. He said some crazy things. All right, he said some absolutely bonkers things. Like he's got a problem with homeless people. Like that's where I went, oh, fuck, here we go. Because you can't just conflate gang violence and people, using guns to rob liquor stores and tourists and all that shit. That's not the same thing as the unsightly issue of homelessness. Homelessness is, look, there are two people, I've said this all my life. You see a homeless person, there are two reactions. Humanity, as far as I can see, two reactions to seeing a homeless person. It's either, oh, or ew. So I've always been more on the oh side because I'm an empathetic pussy. Now, I'm thoughtful. I think about other people. I don't know why this happened. I honestly think it has to do with Catholicism, but I do think of others first. I am a lapsed Catholic, by the way. I'm just saying, you're raised with certain moral, or maybe it's just natural. I don't know. But if you are a person whose reaction to homeless people is ew, well, then you're very pleased about what the president said today, because the president also seems to be one of those people who, their reaction to seeing a homeless person is ew and not, oh. I mean, I'm bummed out by homeless people. They bum me out. I see them and I think, oh God, humanity, man. Some of us just fall through the cracks. In what situation did this person, what have to traverse in order to find themselves here? And this is probably the best option, sitting on a corner. Oh, and when they have a dog, isn't it the worst when homeless people have dogs? Anyway, so the president's like, and the homeless people, right? He's lumping that in with the whole, we're going to get rid of the bangers and stuff, which I like. He's like, yeah, the homeless people, they're already starting to disappear. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait, you solved the homeless problem? What do you mean they're starting to disappear? He didn't say anything about where they're going. He said they're all going to be gone, and they're already starting to be gone. Mr. President, I have a question. I have a follow-up. Where are all the homeless people that you have already made disappear? So that's troubling. Because again, homeless, there are solutions to our homeless problem in this country. We just don't want to do them. We just don't want to spend the money to make sure that there are no homeless encampments in our cities, because our cities are constantly cutting budgets. I don't know why that is. Well, I do know why that is, because our entire system, as we understand it, is completely jack shit upside down. I gotta get rid of Adam. Sorry. All right, what else do we have here? What else did he say? Oh, he did say something else that I thought was interesting. And this is another one. This is another point for the president today. President Trump got up and said he's sending troops in. He's taking over Washington, D.C. I think he put Pam Biondi in charge of the police department, and then some guy that was off camera. And he goes like this. He goes, yeah, and Charlie's going to be running the cops. And Charlie's tough boy. I like Charlie. Hope I don't have to fire him in a couple of weeks for being too soft. And everybody laughed. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then he started talking about they got good cops in other countries. He's talking about Viktor Orban, right? This is all not directly related, but he's talking about, the dudes that he talks to, my friends, and like Viktor Orban is one of them, which is very disheartening for any American, but okay. He likes Viktor Orban. And then he goes into this whole thing and he starts talking about, cops in other countries. They're tough, boy. It's called secret fucking police. And we don't have that in this country, but okay. So anyway, it's that kind of mentality that was on full display at the White House. And quite frankly, I think that maybe we are at this stage now when it comes to inner city crime. I mean, summers in Chicago, you have no idea. The crime is almost always kept to the south and west side. But man, the first really nice spring day in Chicago, the spring Friday night in Chicago, you'll see it. They'll have the helicopter shots up. There's tens of thousands of troublemakers come down to the lakefront, reap all kinds of hell, turning over cars, dancing on cars, fighting with cops, shooting guns off in the street. That's fucking mayhem. How do we arrest 20,000 kids who are in downtown Chicago for the first time? And by the way, they rode the trains too. So you don't want to be on those trains. Those kids will fuck you up on those trains if you get in. Oh, they're just kids. They have nothing else to do because we don't have high enough taxes. Oh, shut up. These kids are wilding in the streets, shattering windows and, just total mayhem. Why? Because they know they cannot all be arrested. Well, when you see these things, when I see that, and when the example of the Austin, how do you stop all of those thug and animals? And yeah, I'm using both of those fucking words, thugs and animals, because I'm sorry, that's what they are. It's racist to call people thugs. Is it? Because when I think thug, I don't think of a black person. I think of a thug. And a thug can come in all different. So fuck you. We ain't playing that bullshit game anymore. I may not have voted for the guy, but there are some benefits to, this new attitude we all seem to have. And that's one of them. Those are thugs. They have rights. I mean, what are you going to do? They're going to sweep all these people up. You put them in the jail. Well, the system can't handle that. Well, then, we got to work on changing the system. But there has to be some kind of repercussion for the out of control behavior of, and I'm going to say it, mostly young people. That's what this is about. These big cities are being overrun by people in their early 20s and late teens who don't have any fear of any sort of repercussion for their actions. And again, I understand, they're all poor kids. This is the result of poverty. Well, fuck that. We can work on that down the road. But right now, we got to stop people from carjacking people. So that's where we are. We'll see where this goes. Like I said, you can find video all over the internet of National Guard walking around Washington, D.C. Or maybe they're just staging or whatever. I don't know. But tonight might be interesting. Will there be pushback? Are we going to look at a night full of protests, stuff like that? I don't know. But what do you do? What do you do when it's just completely out of control and you don't have enough police officers to put everybody in handcuffs and transport everybody to jail, and then you don't have the judges or the jail space? Or that's a broken society. So in the past, I might have sat there and watched what the president did today, and I might have been like, this is a bit totalitarian, don't you think? I'm uncomfortable with this. And I still am in a lot of ways. But I do think, okay, let's just try it. Let's just arrest 18-year-old bangers flying gang colors with guns in their waistband. Let's just go and fucking arrest them. No, you can't. He's just a child. Okay. We can, though. I mean it. I sit there and I watch those Texas street fights and I share them with my kid. And part of the reason that I first started showing them to him was because I was really interested in what his reaction would be. Would his natural reaction to it be, this is great, this is fun, I can't wait to go to UT, because he wants to go to UT. That wasn't his reaction. I was pleased to see that his reaction was, look at these idiots. Look at this guy. What is this guy doing, Where are the cops, So it's not everybody. It's not everybody. It's not every, and by everybody, I don't mean, it's not Mike. I mean, it's not everybody in the generation. An entire generation is not lost, but there are certain segments that just don't know how to behave anymore. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else here? Another thing that he did say that I thought was funny, because Trump, once he gets rolling, he cannot be confined to one topic. He's going to start freelancing, and anything that catches his attention. It's a total stream of consciousness. He is brilliant at stream of consciousness communication, or terrible. I don't know. It all depends on what you think about stream of consciousness communication. Anyway, he said this. He goes, yeah, not for nothing, but the whole trans thing. Like, just for no reason, he goes into the trans thing. And I'm like, okay, what's coming here? What's he going to say here? And he says, I've never met anyone who wants men competing against women. He said that. The big wedge trans issue. They made complete fools out of the ardent left this past election cycle. This concept that a dude, and it was all, surrounding Leah Thomas, right? Or whatever. Or who is Leah Thomas the dude who like a year earlier was on the men's swim team and kind of sucked? And then the next year he shows up as Leah Thomas in a one piece and he's setting records. Right? Wasn't that the central of that story? Okay, if you don't hear that story and immediately go, well, that's fucking wrong, and instead you hear that story and you go, well, she identifies the way she identifies and she should be allowed to compete as well. But should she be allowed to dominate as well? Because that's what we saw in that specific situation, right? And when Trump came out today and he said, I've never met anybody who wants men competing against women in women's sports. When he said that, he was absolutely right. I have never fucking met anybody who was like, yeah. And I know a lot of liberals and a lot of progressives, to a man, to a woman. Not one of them thinks that is, but apparently there are some people out there. I'm afraid to look at the chat room. I dare say that Adam Reyna, a father of daughters, might be thinking that, but that's how this kind of thing started. That's how this kind of thing got to the top of the mountain, where he's now sending troops in to Washington, D.C., and he's not even worried about the pushback. How did we get to this place? Because nonsense from the other party, the opposition party, has completely destroyed their credibility with normal people. And again, this statement today from the president was apropos of nothing. He was there talking about the situation with Washington, D.C. and federalizing the police department. But because he's so undisciplined, he was like, oh, and by the way. And I thought, yeah, he's right on that one too. He is absolutely right. I don't know anybody. Well, I mean, I've seen crazy people online. Is that where these people are coming from? Defund the police. That's another one, right? That was another one that really fucking crushed the Democrats. I don't know a single Democrat who thinks that the police departments in their local municipality needs to be completely defunded and broken down. Not a single. There's a councilman in Minnesota who actually, a fucking local councilman, is St. Paul or Minneapolis. Which one did this extreme power broker hail from? There's nobody in the Congress. There is nobody on a national level who thinks that we need to literally end our municipal police forces. Now, there are some, like that crazy Anaya chick or whatever. I know that she has been out there talking about trying to define what defund the police means, but it just means more money for like social services. And so it's just gotten out of control. The perception that the opposition party is for things like ending the police and allowing dudes to compete against women, true or not. That's why I said the perception, because I don't know that there's actual large enough voting blocks of people who could make those things a reality. I don't think it's real. I think it's like just internet bullshit. But it's those kinds of issues that have been hung around the neck of the opposition party in this country that allows for a president to feel so comfortable that he's like, yeah, I'm sending fucking troops in to Washington, D.C., because you know what? I can do it because the only people who are going to bitch and moan about this have zero credibility anymore with the American people. They've never had credibility with the right, but they also have zero credibility with the middle. I don't know that the average person is very concerned about, his pledge to clean up Washington, D.C. I think a lot of people are like, okay, is this how we're going to end street crime? Like I say with everything, and this guy, and I've been saying this, and I hope if you listen to this show every day, you know that I've been saying it. I didn't vote for him. I didn't support him. I think he's a clown show. But he won, and I'm an American, and I'm not going to sit here going, it was rigged, it was fake. He won. He is the president of the United States. And as I've been saying consistently, we're stuck with him, good or bad. So when he does these things, let's just sit and wait and see how they play out instead of freaking out on day one. So let's see. Let's see what happens with military type force now in America's inner cities. And again, this wouldn't be the place to start. The place to start, you want to know what America's most deadly city is? The place to start would be St. Louis or Little Rock, Arkansas. But those are red states. So you're going to start there. And also there's the little issue of states' rights, right? You can't just do that in those states. So Washington, D.C., although as Mayor Muriel Bowser, as she's been saying all morning, Washington, D.C. has nothing that they can do to push back on this. The president can do it. District of Columbia. Peter Lufkin in the chat room says the president said it's an experiment. Yeah, it is. Okay, and I'm all for it. Let's go. Well, okay, we are now at the stage where let's start experimenting with people's civil liberties. Let's go, because what is the result? Just allowing this kind of stuff to happen? Just allowing, there to be entire neighborhoods in American cities where we can't go? And when I say we can't go, I don't mean there's, barricades in the streets and, you have to show an ID to get in there. What I mean is nobody who understands the lay of the land goes to these areas of their town because they know what could happen. It's easy to avoid. They made the roads in Chicago. They made the roads and the interstates perfect. I don't know if you know this. This is the way when they built the interstates in like the late 1960s and the 1970s. They ran them right through the middle of Chicago, cutting off the bad neighborhoods from the good neighborhoods. So the good neighborhoods in Chicago are on the west side of the interstate, and the bad neighborhoods are all on the east side. So that's how they did it there. Wasn't he also talking about tearing down the slums? That was another thing that Trump got into today. He started free ball, and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting rid of the slums. I know I can't say that word, and I know people get mad at me when I say slums. He said, I used to own slums. I used to run slums. Of course, he spent, a couple election cycles denying that he was ever a slumlord, but now he's up there going, oh, I know slums. Nobody knows more about slums than me. We're going to get rid of all the slums. Okay. That will look better. Where do the people go? Where do the people who are currently residing in subsidized housing, which is known colloquially as slums, where do those people? He didn't say, he didn't offer that. Guantanamo? Where are we sending our poor people? Where is Moneybags from New York City, the billionaire? Where is he going to send our poor people? The unsightlies. Frank Smith says Washington, D.C. has no state police. Oh, no, that was, sorry, there's Frank. Frank says Washington, D.C. has no state police. Why would they need state police? What? They're a city, dude. I don't get that. I love Frank's observations. Why would they need state? They're not a state. Why would they need state police? I don't understand that. So yes, that is why the federal government can send in the National Guard, because the local municipal police do not have any sort of built-in backup the way most big cities, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, they can rely upon the New York State Police, the Illinois Troopers, or the Pennsylvania State Police. So from that standpoint, I do understand what he's saying. But it's not a state, so duh. Okay, they don't have a state police. Let's see here. Frank has more to say. Frank says, I fully believe the Republican governors of Memphis, New Orleans, and St. Louis need to crack down on crime in those cities and send in the state police. Well, yeah. I mean, he's going after Washington, D.C. because, one, the base don't give a fuck about Washington, D.C. because it's perceived to be, a Democratic city filled with black people. So you can fuck with Washington, D.C. One, brand-wise, you can. Two, you just simply can do it. You can do this in Washington, D.C. He's only going to do blue state cities. He's not going to go anywhere near the red state cities that are actually the most dangerous and crime-ridden cities in America. That's St. Louis, Missouri, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Frank mentions Memphis. Memphis is also bad, but it's always, year in and year out, the murder capitals of America are St. Louis, Missouri, and Little Rock, Arkansas. He won't do that. Because then how do the people say, well, it's these Democrat-led states, right? You can't say that when your governor is a big old MAGA guy. So it'll be like he said, it'll be Washington, D.C., and if this goes well and they can figure out a way, it'll be New York and Chicago next. And not gonna throw a spotlight on the fucking mayhem that is St. Louis, Missouri. Nope, not gonna do that. What else do we have here? Peter says, my guy Peter says, as a white 65-year-old male, I am a bystander with popcorn. Yeah, me too. We've been through our wars. Our wars are done. Our little protests. What did we get all bummed out about? Gen X didn't protest anything. Nothing. Ever. We didn't care. We didn't care because we knew it was all just a big Ponzi game, right? A little shell game. We didn't participate. Was there anything? No, we did like Lollapalooza and Lilith tours, and we did that kind of stuff. When did protests really start back up in this country? Because protests were big when I was little. My mom was a big protester, I think. Big hippie. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. Maybe. Protests kind of stopped after the Vietnam War. Around about 75, we stopped seeing these big... Oh, then the women's movement, right? There was a couple, but that wasn't like this. It wasn't like the women's movement never burned down neighborhoods. So there was like no wars and no protests between, say, 75 and then like 2002. I think they started back up. Whenever the push for weapons of mass destruction, I think that's when protesting started. Then we had the Black Lives Matter stuff, and now we protest everything. All right. Anyway, protesting's back. Guys like Peter and I, we're just going to enjoy our popcorn. You kids do your dirtiest. Take back America, my guy. All right, let's see. What else and gals, my guy and gals. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Let's do some Epstein stuff. Okay, so the breaking news today in the big Jeffrey Epstein situation. Breaking news today is that a judge, the second judge now, has rejected the Department of Justice's bid to get the grand jury transcripts from one particular grand jury. They're trying to get the transcripts released. Now, you can't release grand jury transcripts without getting a judge to go, okay, this is important for the public good and blah, blah, blah. A judge has, because these are secret. Grand jury transcripts are super secret because otherwise no one would ever tell on people, without the secrecy of a grand jury. So you got to go to a judge, right? So there are some grand jury testimonies that pertain to the Epstein files, in particular testimony given by two agents that the Department of Justice is hell-bent on getting released. Not sure why, but they are not going to judges and saying, hey, judge, can we release all the Epstein stuff? No, they're going to judges and saying this particular grand jury testimony, can we release it? And the judges are saying no. Second judge today, this judge today was it in New York or Florida? Florida, I think the Florida judge rejected the argument first, and now a New York judge today has done it as well. Their own special circumstances are what is required for a judge to allow the release of grand jury testimony. The judge in this case today in New York said, these are not special circumstances. The grand jury materials would not reveal any new info of consequence. There would be nothing new. There is no there. This is, again, this only concerns the testimony of 2 investigators. And the judge is saying there is no new information here. We're not going to go back on solid law that you don't make grand jury testimony public. We're not going to go back on that because of this. There's nothing new here. So that's 2 in a row. 2 judges in a row have said that no, they are not going to release the grand jury. Again, I don't know what this is. This is two agents who testified to things in their course of investigating Jeffrey Epstein. So anyway, there you go. The other part of the Epstein update for today is that Ghislaine Maxwell's old cellie there from her Florida prison stint, where she spent the first few years of her incarceration. She's now in a really nice Texas prison down in Bryan. Not even a fence or a gate or a guard tower. There's nothing at the prison. You can walk in. It looks like a junior college. The new prison that this global sex trafficker is being housed in for the rest of her life. And I say rest of her life, I think she's got like 25 years, but she's 60 something years old. So, probably the rest of her life. So anyway, Ghislaine's old roomie or cellie is giving interviews about what Ghislaine Maxwell, the prisoner, is like. And again, last week, Maxwell was moved to Camp Bryan in Texas, which is a minimum security prison where there are no perimeter walls or wire fences. Her move came after she met and was questioned by Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Okay. So she's moved to this nicer prison. Now, when she was at the rough prison, her cellie was Catherine Camoli. Catherine Camoli is 44 years old. She served 6 years for conspiracy to distribute and possess with the intent to distribute methamphetamine. So Ghislaine was in a cell with a methamphetamine dealer. She's out now, by the way, and she's talking to the press about her time, 2 years as cellie with Ghislaine Maxwell. Cannoli says, I'm going to call her Cannoli. I guess it's Camoli. Camoli says it was common knowledge among inmates that Ghislaine Maxwell didn't aim to serve her full 20-year sentence and instead had hoped to get a pardon from then U.S. President Joe Biden in exchange for information about Donald Trump in the lead up to the 2024 election. All right, so Ghislaine Maxwell's cellie is saying, yeah, she used to talk all the time about how she wasn't going to serve out her full thing because she had information on Trump and Biden was going to, pardon her, or Biden was going to commute her or whatever, which is, of course, delusional. He would have never done. He wouldn't have done that. Nobody. Trump can't do it. The whole idea that people are speculating that Trump might do it is why it's why we're all going, wait, what is he involved in this? Why would he even consider pardoning a convicted sex trafficker? Okay. So she was going around telling people back when Biden was president that she had information on Trump and that she was going to give it to the Biden administration in return for a pardon. Okay. Here's a quote now from Camoli, the former cellie of Ghislaine Maxwell, said, I heard her tell another inmate that she had dirt on Trump and that it was going to get her a pardon from Biden. I guess Biden's camp just didn't want to go down that route, Camoli says. I believe Maxwell has now made a deal with the devil to get that transfer out of Tallahassee. A very rough place, says Camoli. Life in the Tallahassee prison is marked differently from that of life in Camp Bryan, where she is now. Yeah, it's a lot nicer. One's like a hardcore, prison with monsters, pedophile sex traffickers. And the other is where like real housewives of Salt Lake City go after they get caught up in an online scam. Right? That's not a real prison. That's you need a timeout for 18 months. And that's where we're finding Ghislaine now. Hope she's enjoying it. It says here, Camoli, the former cellie, saw Maxwell passing the time by working as a clerk at the law library in the prison's education building. She worked there 3 to 5 days a week. She was really smart, and she knows the law well. She helped people with legal stuff and won respect from other inmates for this. But she would not let anyone take advantage of her. Of Maxwell's perceived persona in prison, Kamali says, the evil pimp, I never saw that. I just saw a person trying to get through each day like the rest of us. She was active in her Jewish faith and took that seriously. She had a Torah and participated in the Sabbath. She was a participant in all prison Jewish activities. Kamali joined Maxwell twice weekly. Now, listen to this, because this is at the hardcore prison. this is at the hardcore prison. Kamali joined Maxwell twice weekly for yoga and Pilates classes. Around a dozen inmates would head to a corner of the yard with prison mats that Maxwell had secured for them. She would lead the group in Pilates and yoga. Goes on to say, so she's teaching yoga, just Ghislaine Maxwell. She goes on to say, she was in phenomenal shape, running up to 5 miles every day in the yard, says Kamali. Ghislaine could outrun pretty much anybody. Whenever she would be walking back from the track and someone would holler out, hey, Maxwell, come here, she would just ignore them. She was good at ignoring people. Then sometimes she would be in a playful mood and she'd grab a basketball and start dribbling it around the court and shooting hoops. She's very athletic. All right, sounds like your old Sully kind of likes her. Okay, so also she goes on to say there's other stories about her. One problem with Ghislaine Maxwell and being Ghislaine Maxwell's Sully is that Ghislaine Maxwell never showered. In 2 years, she never showered. So there were some hygiene problems with, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, why didn't she shower? Was she a gross pig? No. According to Kamali, Ghislaine didn't shower because she would never go into the bathrooms. She would never go into the bathrooms alone, the shower rooms or whatever. She felt that she was a target. She felt that somebody was going to try and take her out. And the only way that she could avoid that was to never shower. So basically what they're saying is that she cleaned up in the toilet. She used toilet water. And that wasn't substantial, because apparently Ghislaine Maxwell was known to have terrible body odor and other such bad hygiene kind of things. I understand that she's probably showering now for at the nice place. She's probably got a private walk-in at the new place. Probably glass like a cube, just so the others can watch. Sexy prison time fun and whatnot. All right, there you go. There's your Maxwell, your Ghislaine Maxwell / Jeffrey Epstein update for today. Frankie's got a great idea. Frankie says we need a jailhouse interview by yours truly there at the prison in Bryan, Texas. Yeah, I would talk to Ghislaine. All right. However, that's not going to happen because one of the reasons she got in trouble, she got put in solitary confinement there in Tallahassee for talking to media. Apparently, in a phone call, she ended up giving, some kind of interview to somebody, and it wasn't properly, okayed by prison officials. So she got put in solitary for a week for that. I don't know, Frank. Good idea, but who knows? What did I do? Did I just accidentally X out of my... I did. Hold on, guys. We got more stuff we got to talk about here. All right, so we've gone through Trump in Washington, D.C. Hold on. We've gone through the Maxwell update. A judge has said no to the Department of Justice's request to unseal some grand jury interviews from the Epstein case. And what do we have now? All right. We got to do this story now. I'm not prepared to do this story because I have no idea what is happening on this. So there was a big explosion today at U.S. Steel. Let me see what the latest is here. I just, out of the corner of my eye, was watching. There was some sort of press conference going on regarding it. Big U.S. Steel plant in Pittsburgh or outside Pittsburgh. Here's the story. At least 1 dead and 10 have been injured after explosions at the U.S. Steel Clarton Coke Works plant. I don't know what that means. What is Coke? From the Billy Joel song, Allentown. I know he's got a line about Coke, but I don't know what that is. Steel Coke. I know a lot about steel, though. Actually, not a lot about steel now that I think about it. Here's why. One of the news shows, by the way, I should catch you up on what I'm watching. Remember, I went into the weekend going, I got nothing to watch, you guys. You guys got anything you can suggest I watch? So I ended up watching, I'm back into Vikings. I started Vikings season 1, episode 1. Here we go, Ragnar. I'm doing it again. But then also I started watching on, it's either Netflix or Prime, I'm not sure. Remember I told you how last week I ran through the new series Titans, The Rise of Hollywood, from the same people who brought us America, The Story of Us, or whatever. Those are great, great documentary series that I really enjoy. So I found a new one that apparently I didn't see. It's like 10 years old, and it's called The Story of Us. And it's just about Earth and the people of Earth in all the different eras. I got to tell you, when they invented steel, some shit changed. The invention of steel was a big deal, man. Bronze Age, all that stuff. I don't know why I thought about that. Because it's a stream of consciousness. Anyway, let's get into some serious steel stuff. We've got 1 person dead and 10 injured. A big steel plant explosion there at the Clairton Coke Works plant. This comes to us out of Pittsburgh. This is local Pittsburgh station WTAE. Pittsburgh Action. I got a pop-up that won't go away, and it won't allow me to read because it's just... Pittsburgh Action News 4 has confirmed that at least 1 person has died and others have been injured after multiple explosions occurred at the U.S. Clairton Coke Works plant in Pennsylvania. In addition to the 1 person who has died, 10 have been taken to local hospitals. 1 remains unaccounted for. It was previously reported that 2 people were unaccounted for, but officials said during a 3 p.m. press conference that 1 person was rescued and transported to a local hospital. Multiple explosions occurred today at the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant in Pennsylvania. Injured employees have now been transported. Okay, I'm reading the same damn thing over and over. I don't have anything more. I don't know what to tell you. I got no hot takes on why steel plants explode. I guess they do from time to time. All right, here's a big story. Here's a really big story that I think is going to seriously alter the way that I spend my free time. UFC. The UFC is no longer going to be operating under a pay-per-view business model for its biggest fights. Can you imagine? I had to read the story a couple of times today. I had to keep going on. I'm like, wait a second. Okay, so even like the biggest super fights, there's no more pay-per-view. It's just all going to be on TV, which is a big deal because UFC pay-per-view fights cost like $80. Like 1 fight. Like they give you all the garbage for free. If you're an ESPN Plus subscriber, you get all the like fight nights and, garbage shit. But if there's a really big fight, like a heavyweight championship fight or something, that's going to pay-per-view and that's going to cost you an additional like $80. And that's been a big deterrent for me over the years, especially since I've lost interest in the way these people are fighting. It used to be a game that was determined almost entirely by submissions or knockouts. And then we started to see more and more decisions going to the judges and all of that nonsense, the stuff that ruined boxing. Well, I lost interest in UFC. Became a chess game instead of a blood sport, which is what I liked when I first started getting into it. And then you add on the fact that, everything is like an $80 pay-per-view, and 5 of like the 6 fights that are on a pay-per-view card are going to end in decisions. Some of them are going to be like, bad decisions, like they're going to get it wrong. So there's a lot of problems. I didn't like it. But this is a big deal. So here, let me give you the story. It surrounds Paramount. Paramount has just been on a media buying spree these past couple of weeks. Certainly, they opened up the big news for Paramount 3 weeks ago when they announced that Stephen Colbert was going to be going. They were not going to be renewing Stephen Colbert. This was all done while they were trying to get approval by the White House for a merger between Paramount and Skydance. Skydance is a film production company led by Larry Ellison's son. So billionaire son starts a movie production company. That company decides it wants a huge library to be able to, the Paramount library is big. So they merge or they buy or whatever. I don't know. All I know is that Larry Ellison's billionaire kid is now in charge of Paramount. Paramount Plus is a platform. I don't know if you have it. I do. It's something that I access through my Prime. It's like $9 a month, and it's pretty damn good. I am a big fan of Paramount Plus. It is emerging as one of my primary platforms. HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and Netflix right now. Those are like the ones that I like most. Hulu can go kick rocks. I'm so done with Hulu. So anyway, Paramount has been buying up shit. They spent like $2 billion 2 weeks ago for South Park, for only 5 years of streaming rights of South Park. So anything South Park will now be available to you there on Paramount. Well, Paramount today agreed to a groundbreaking $7.7 billion deal with the UFC. $7.7 billion. It took that much money for the UFC to completely ditch their pay-per-view model. Now, this is coming in 2026. So, what do I have a story here? Is this an actual news story? Hold on. Oh, here. Yeah, let's see what this is. Okay, this just popped up, and I don't know what this is, so let's watch it for the first time. Here we go. All right.
Staley, Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. Caroline, this is massive for UFC. Look, 7 years, $7.7 billion is, of course, massive. But of true note here is this is the first time that all of the pay-per-views will simply be made available to subscribers. There will be no additional extra cost. They are simply aligning in a way that lets every Paramount Plus subscriber get to their pay-per-views. That I don't think we can put enough weight into how much that actually means.
So let me just talk about what this means to you, the average consumer of UFC content, okay? So let's say that there are 2 pay-per-views a month. That's $160. $160 a month for 2 pay-per-views that you're going to be, you may not even want to see it, but you'll be ginned up because everything free that you watch because of your ESPN Plus subscription, free. I say free. You are paying an ESPN Plus subscription because everything free that you watch is going to be hyping up this $80 pay-per-view broadcast. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now it's all going to be free. All you're going to have to do, remember, $160, right? If they do 2 pay-per-views a month, sometimes they do more. But let's say there's 2 pay-per-views a month. That's $160 under the current model. That will now cost you $10 a month. That is a savings of $150 a month. Paramount Plus costs $10, and you're going to get all the pay-per-views.
I mean, 7 years, $7.7 billion. Lord have mercy, Dana White. You are a bad, bad man. But I think that this deal is revolutionary for growing the fan base for UFC. I will be the first one to admit I'm a casual UFC fan. I'm not going to make sure that I'm at home to watch every single fight on any given Friday or Saturday night. And I'm probably not going to be the person that spends, $70, $80 on any respective UFC fight. I'll say if I can catch it, I will. If I'll go to a friend's house who's going to pay for it, then I'll go over there and watch it. But this changes things for me, and I think probably a large population of sports fans will also probably classify themselves as casual UFC fans because now it is so much more accessible. And I think accessibility is key for any sports league, but especially a league that's trying to grow.
Okay, I don't know if she's going to mention this, but it also does need to be said for the truly biggest fights. Like, I don't know, John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, which is like, I guess, the big dream fight that a lot of UFC guys want to see now. That would be a pay-per-view fight. That would be a decade hyped fight. This is, the fight of the decade, that kind of thing. That's now going to be free on Paramount. I'm sorry, I messed that up. It's now going to be free on Paramount. But also, those really big fights that used to be pay-per-view, they're going to be on CBS Network. That's right. Just like NFL football or NBA basketball or anything that you watch on your local over-the-air CBS 2. Paramount owns CBS. This is a deal for CBS Sports as well. So, I mean, just like tuning into a football game, you're flipping around. Imagine the sports fan who is going to be flipping around, who never really got into the UFC because of the pay-per-view thing or whatever. Imagine your grandpa, maybe, just flipping around now on a Saturday night. It's 8:30. He gets to CBS and he sees UFC. He's going to stick on that. He might stick on that. He might watch it. This is an incredible way to grow this sport even more. It is putting this sport on a par with basketball, hockey, baseball, and football. It is now something where the biggest events in the sport will not be a special thing you have to whip out the credit card for, but it'll be like NFL playoffs or NBA playoffs, or it will be on network TV.
Look at the NFL, for example. If you build it, they will come. If you put an NFL game, call it a Titans-Jags, not very good regular season game behind a paywall, people are going to pay for it because it's the NFL. And if you build it, they'll come. The UFC doesn't have necessarily that luxury, although it has a very rabid and passionate fan base. It's not the largest fan base in all of sports.
I mean, I'm also going to admit that I'm a little stunned. We've seen ESPN spend massive amounts of money to put everything on their upcoming app. I'm a little stunned to see ESPN get outbid. 7 years, $7.7 billion is a staggering moment for UFC. I think it's big for everybody. Huge break.
All right, there you go. It's the big news. Paramount is making the big media news again. 3 weeks in a row. 3 major Paramount push stories. All right, here we go. Let me see here. What else do we want to talk about? What did I do? What did I just do to my screen? Oh, Jesus. I don't know how to do this. Nope. Where'd I go? There we go. All right. The screen is crazy. What happened to the chat room? Did we lose the chat room too? Sorry, I'm just catching up on some. All right. Kevin knows the story of us. Yeah, story of us. I don't know. I found it on Netflix, I think. Maybe it's Prime. It's very interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's move on now. What else do we have? Okay, let's talk about this. Here's a story that I read over the weekend, and I just went, this is happening now. And I don't know how I feel about it. I know that my programming and my, years of building up this wall of cynicism, they dictate that I behave a certain way when this situation comes up. But I don't know if I really feel that way. So let's talk it through together. Golf cart culture. Are you guys familiar with golf cart culture? Oh my God. It's everywhere these days. I don't know when it happened. Probably they say pandemic. They say the pandemic is when this started to become a big thing, but I don't know. I'm seeing it more and more within the last year. Let me take you back a couple of years. I'm talking to my mom, and she's talking about her new golf cart. My mom bought a new golf cart. What the fuck you got a golf cart for? You don't golf? Now, my mom lives in a very nice gated community that is all, it's on a wetland preserve, and everybody's friends and all the neighbors know each other, and it's weird. It's like a village. It's like a tribal village of just, older people who, they're all retired and they all just get drunk by noon every day. They're being paid back for, 70 years of bullshit they've put up with. So Godspeed to them. But they all have golf carts. They all just suddenly, over the course of a couple of years, they all got golf carts now. So now let's fast forward. I got a golf cart, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, whatever. I just thought this was an old person thing. So now here, I live in I squat in a very nice neighborhood, a very wealthy neighborhood, Park Cities here in North Texas. And everybody has a golf cart. I mean, I don't. I don't have a golf cart. But if you've got a family, you've got a golf cart. And these people whip around up and down the streets and, they go to the 7-Eleven and it's, it's like dad and he's got like 15 kids and the golf carts all have silly horns. Some of them have lights and they light up and they're all silly. And they're everywhere. They are absolutely everywhere. I mean, you have to look both ways. They're small. You can't see them. Actually, they're not all small. They're all smaller than the car I'm in and probably the car that you're in, but they're bigger than motorcycles. And they're certainly easier to see than those electric bikes. But the electric bikes are another problem. Every single kid in my neighborhood has like a $5,000 electric bike and they whiz by. Sounds like the Jetsons. They whiz by at like 40 miles an hour, no helmet. And I'm like, how did this become a thing? My fucking generation, I wasn't allowed to skateboard because I could hit my head. My mom worked in a hospital. And she was always like, you're not skateboarding. I see all these kids coming in. Now suddenly you can be 12 years old and have a machine that goes 50 miles an hour down your sidewalk. And everybody's like, that's cool. Because it's electric. Whatever. So golf carts are everywhere. Here, let me see this. We'll read you a little bit from the story that I found because I thought it was interesting. I don't know how I feel about golf carts being everywhere. Golf carts have taken over suburbia. Cue the resistance. Not everybody is thrilled. Oh, boy. All right. Well, apparently that story is now going to cost me $1.50. All right. So we're not going to read from the Wall Street Journal story, the story I read for free this morning that now is apparently charging me $1.50. This is why you got to cut and paste these stories. Everything's behind a paywall. All right, anyway, golf carts. Do you have them in your neighborhood? Or is this just an old person and a rich person thing? My son's aunt has a golf. My son drives a golf cart. His aunt lives up in Plano. Well, he lives in Plano too, but she lives in a different part of Plano. But whenever he goes over to his aunt's house, he like drives around in their golf cart. He's like, I drive the golf cart in the street. This is when he was like 14. I'm like, oh, cool. That's kind of wild. And then my mom gets a golf cart, and now I see golf carts all over. All right, enough with the golf carts. I am hot as hell. It's so hot in here, you guys. It is, we still have no air conditioning. It is bordering on the middle of August. I've been a good sport. We've put up with this now since, I don't know, when did we first get to 100 degrees here in North Texas? March. So it's been, 4 or 5 months of this horrible, horrible thing. Currently, here in North Texas, 98 degrees. 98 degrees, and it's about 89 degrees in this studio. Leslie says this happens on my street too with kids on golf carts. Kids, I know, I see kids all the time, like on the street, just coming up the street. Oh my God, look at that. That's a 9-year-old piloting this golf cart. And I guess they only go like 30 miles an hour or 40 miles per hour, which is slower than the electric bikes that they ride. But whatever. Still don't think it's... See, this is the programming. Like the programming says, that ain't good. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. They say the pros of the golf cart culture is that, it's just too cumbersome in the modern world to have to take your big giant car out to the store or to pick up kids from practice or whatever. That a golf cart is just, simply more practical. I suppose if you can afford one, they cost anywhere from $5,000, it says, to $30,000. I'm guessing the one that lights up and plays all the music, that's going to be a $30,000 one. Adam says, you couldn't skateboard? Man, what a pussy. Yeah, couldn't skateboard, wasn't allowed to. Didn't want to either because skateboarders were dorks. So, do with that what you want, Adam. But yeah, I was told flat out my mom wouldn't let me skateboard. Maybe it's a different time. Kevin Barber, he was there in that time with me. Kevin KB Artist is in the chat room. We weren't skateboarders, right? Like skateboarders were dorks, right? In the Midwest. I don't know. Adam Rainey was raised here in Texas. Maybe they have a different, well, maybe just everybody's dorky when they're, young here. But I seem to remember like not really thinking that skateboarders were cool in the 80s. Now that changed in like the mid 90s. Like I get it, the whole Tony Hawk thing and all that. But we were before skateboarder. We were before that. And it was just like new. Skateboarding was new. Although, now that I think about it, when was Back to the Future? Because Marty McFly, he was like the first guy to like really do skateboarding in a movie. And it was new. So yeah, all right, never mind. Screw you, Adam. You guys were dorks. Skateboarders. I wouldn't have been good at it anyway. My mom was right. She probably looked at me and went, no, you're going to like break your elbow or crack your head on a curb or something. She was probably right. She was probably right. All right, what else do we want to watch here? Here's a story over the weekend that first there were 2 Major League Baseball stories this weekend. The first one was apparently the first female umpire. It's just such an accomplishment. I don't know, it's not. See, again, just stop. Good for her. Good for her. You know what it deserves? It deserves a note. It deserves maybe something on the outfield scoreboard in game. Hey, congratulations, she's the first. We don't need to celebrate this. Celebrating the fact that it's 2025, baseball's been around from the 1860s, and we're only just now allowing a woman to call a game. That's fucking embarrassing, okay? But we don't look at it that way. Instead, it's like, look at the progress we're making. No. This would have been progress 30 years ago, okay? This is just dumb. It's embarrassing and it's stupid, and you ought to just put 15 fucking women, because quite frankly, there is no skill set that I can see, having been an umpire, there is no skill set that I can see that would make a man better at this than women. It's one of them things that we can both probably do to the same level. And the fact it's 2025 and we are just now. Oh, by the way, also, I want to say another thing about women. So I was watching my Chicago Bears play their preseason game yesterday. They played a preseason game against the Miami Dolphins. It ended in a tie. That's right. I watched 3 hours plus of a preseason fucking game that ended in a tie. A game that was like 90% future Foot Locker managers versus your next insurance agent. So it was all like 4th and 5th string guys that are about to be cut. Doesn't matter. I was there. I'm watching it. Anyway, during the Bears-Dolphins game, we had Adam Amin, who is a very good play-by-play guy, one of my favorites. He does national basketball. He does national. I think he's a Fox B-teamer. So, if you're watching the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Oakland Raiders at 3:00, you might get Adam Amin calling that game. Anyway, he's great. It was Adam Amin. It was Jim Miller, who is a former quarterback in the NFL. And nobody probably knows who he is. But he was a pretty decent quarterback for the Bears for like one season. So he is stuck on in Chicago as like a media person. But nobody else remembers Jim Miller. I don't think they do anyway. So it's Adam Amin, Jim Miller calling the game. And what was she described as? Was it color? Then what is Jim Miller doing there? Stacey Dales. Stacey Dales, a woman who is very accomplished in the world of NFL journalism. Stacey Dales was the third voice in the booth for the Bears-Dolphins preseason game. And the hatred for the female voice in a football game on Twitter was unbelievable. I mean, I didn't even notice it. I didn't even notice that it was like a woman doing the game. I didn't until I went online and I started reading all of this. They got to get this woman out of the boat. No less an individual than Grego the Hammer, from the Hardline, friend of mine. He did not like Stacey Dales. And then, of course, there was a whole thread of like Stacey Dales bashing. And they're like, this is why women shouldn't. And I watch this and I go, oh, well, that's right. There is a woman in it. Like, I didn't even notice until people started making a big deal about it. Anyway, there's an observation. All right, so the 2 big stories in Major League Baseball over the weekend was the first female umpire to call a game. Again, embarrassing baseball, but go ahead. Keep trying to pat yourself on the back. You're so progressive, baseball. The other big news in baseball was this fucking kid. This kid, I don't know if you saw it anywhere. All right, so there's this little kid. He wants to be a Major League Baseball umpire, and that's really cute, right? Except that he apparently saved up all his money from cutting lawns, which is bullshit. That is such a bullshit story made up so that they could say it on a baseball game. Look at him. He had to mow 50 lawns to make the money to pay for his trip here to St. Louis. And I'm like, did he come alone? His fucking parents didn't fucking pick up the tab? What are you talking about? So, yeah. So there's this kid who apparently saved up all of his money and went to the St. Louis Cardinals facing the Chicago Cubs in St. Louis series over the weekend. 3-game series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This kid was at all 3 games. And when I don't watch Cubs games, but I have a lot of friends who are Cubs games and the Cub fans. And the way that this story became onto my radar is all of my Cub fan friends just going nuts on Twitter. Like, shit, who is this kid? Get this kid off my TV. So apparently the announcers for the Cubs Cardinals games became obsessed with this kid. And, in between every pitch, they would show this little kid. He's probably about 10, 11 years old. I don't know. We'll read the story. They show the pitch, and then they show the kid, and then the kid is like, and he's doing all this stuff, and he's got the little outfit, and, he's cute as a button. Little pudgy kid, perfect for, like, a little umpire. Let's watch this kid. All right, here you go. Is this the second one? I don't know. There's so many videos. It doesn't matter what day he's there. Here you go. Here's an example of what this kid was getting into there at the again, this is the Cubs-Cardinals game over the weekend. Let's watch him. There's also an interview. We'll see a little interview with him. Here you go. See, look at him. He just shows up at the game. He's dressed like that. And he stands there in the aisle, which, by the way, how come there wasn't an usher going, you can't stand in the aisle? Because every time I've been to a sporting event and felt the need to stand in the aisle, I've been told I can't stand in the aisle. Well, this kid, all 3 games, 27 innings, standing in the aisle. Here we go.
And by the way, huge day in umpiring. Jen Powell making Major League history in Atlanta today over at first base. First female umpire in a Major League game. Congratulations to Jen. I just cannot get over how much.
By the way, I do need to mention, okay, because I don't want, this is Jason Benetti, the greatest play-by-play guy in the world. He's the one that I've talked about numerous times on this show over the year. He is my absolute favorite. He's the dude with cerebral palsy who can barely walk and all that kind of stuff, but he's fucking great at doing baseball, football, basketball. He does it all. So here we go.
Bradley put Atlanta today over at first base. First female umpire in a Major League game. Congratulations to Jen. I just cannot get over how much Bradley puts on his mask like Bill Miller does. I cannot get over it.
Uh-oh.
High fly ball, deep left field. Shaw tattoos it. Yeah, Bradley, it's gone. It is.
I see that. See how the camera keeps going back to the kid? Well, apparently the Cub fans that I know were not happy about this.
9-0 Cubs.
Which I don't know, 9-0. It sounds like you should be, in a good mood accepting anything. All right, so there you go. That's the kid. That's little Bradley. We got more here. We want to watch, where is it? Apparently he gave an interview. Yeah, all right. Let's watch the kid get interviewed. Here we go. This is more from little Bradley, the wannabe umpire. First of all, do you start out wanting to be an umpire? Like, don't you start out wanting to be a professional baseball player?
By the way, has the
watch this. There he is.
Jordan Walker, by the way, has the Cardinal Cubs. Now, Bradley, you told me this is not your first time dressing as an umpire at a big league game. You did it during spring training, right? Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. So, in Jupiter, Florida,
Oh, fucking kid. Listen to that voice. He's so cute. And he starts out with the yes, sir. Oh, my God.
Umpire.
Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. So, in Jupiter, Florida, I umpired behind the stands in about, like March area. And a lot of people cheered me on. I was really happy, and I just wanted to pursue a good passion of mine that I thought that was worth.
Do you umpire other youth baseball leagues and kids?
Yes, sir. I umpire in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. and T-ball league, and then I'm gonna work my way up, and then go to a umpire school.
That's a base hit. All right, so the umpire school is coming up next year. You're 13 years old. Right now it's a passion. Next year, Dad starts right behind you. Dad starts paying for it.
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hope I get a scholarship.
I hope you get one too. How did you discover this?
Did you get a scholarship for? I mean, I guess maybe to an umpiring school, right? But they don't. You can't. Like, you can't go to, Texas A&M and major in umpiring, right? That's not a thing. Don't you have to go to, it's like clowning, right? You can't get a degree in clowning. You got to go to a clown college. All right, let's see.
Passion for umpiring.
Well, I basically, I just talk to a lot of people. I watch YouTube videos, and I was at actually a Marlins game, and me and my dad were sitting in the stands, and I was staring at the umpires, and my dad was like, "Who are you staring at?" And I said, "The umpires." And on our ride back, I said, "Dad, hey Dad, can you give me some umpire gear?" And he said, "Sure." So then I started watching YouTube videos. Then I went to spring training. Now I go to minor league games at Roger Dean Stadium. And yeah.
Pretty cool. Who's your favorite umpire? Do you have one guy you look up to?
I have about 3.
If he says Joe West or Angel Hernandez, I am out.
All right, name them.
So first is...
I'm going to smirk.
So first is Tom Hanahan.
Oh,
Second
no.
is James Jean.
Oh, no.
And the third one, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with, I don't know. I like Ron Kolpa.
All right, that's a good one. Now, it can't be dangerous, too, right? Because you made a call.
All right, he named 3 umpires who I don't know, which is probably the mark of a good umpire. If we don't know their names, that means that they've probably called some fair games. All right, so let's talk about this kid. He's adorable. It's adorable. It's cute. Again, we're going to talk about programming versus, your real feeling on this. Programming says that we're supposed to see that and go, isn't that adorable? Isn't that good for him? Good. He knows what he wants to do. Good for him. Right? That's the programming in world because it's a kid. The other thing is, oh, it's a kid. You can't say anything against the kid. All right. I get that. But also, if we're being honest, it's kind of weird, right? This kid is kind of weird. 13 years old, and he's like super obsessed with this. He's going to games and trying to make direct eye contact with other umpires. I know what is Barney? Barney was mad about it. Barney was like, what did Barney say? I think we shared something earlier. I just watched the interview. Okay, I was loaded for bear. I was gonna kind of make fun of the kid and be like, this is so fucking irritating. And then I just watched the interview, and I hadn't watched the interview before. And now I'm like, oh, all right. He seems like a sweet kid, but he's a nerd, right? Like he doesn't have girlfriends. This is like a hyper nerdy kind of thing. I had a friend named Joe. Not really a friend, but we went to school together for a whole bunch of years. And he never went out for sports. And I don't know if there was a physical reason why he never went out for sports or whatever. But starting from the time that he was about this kid's age, about 13 years old, Joe was a trainer's assistant. Like all through grade school and all through high school. He would wrap our ankles and all that kind of stuff. And, we all liked Joe, and Joe was great, but it was, I made a mental note that I thought it was kind of odd that this is what he wanted to do. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there was, now that I think about it, maybe there was something physically wrong with him that he couldn't play organized sports. So this was a way for him to be. This kid is very similar to that. It's an odd choice. It's an odd interest. Although I got to be honest, when I was probably 13 years old, I used to sit in the dugout, of baseball games and do play-by-play with my friends, because I had an interest in, being on the radio or whatever. So I used to do that. But I was at least in uniform. I was playing the game. I wasn't just like, all I want to do is be the announcer. No, at that age, I was like, I want to play first base for the White Sox. But that wasn't happening. So then, you make your choice. You're like, well, how can I stay close to the game? Become an umpire, become a play-by-play guy. I don't know. I just thought it was strange. Thought it was strange. And I'm sure this kid is a superstar now. He probably got 1 billion followers on Twitter for doing this. And maybe that's part of Dad's metric here and thinking about how he's going to condone this, because the kid was all over social media over the weekend receiving praise and everybody like, you're great. I saw one person said they should set up a GoFundMe so we could, and I'm like, what? A GoFundMe? This kid is from Florida. His dad is scooping him up and flying him to St. Louis so that he can take in 3 consecutive games between the Cubs and the Cardinals. And I might add, that's not a cheap ticket. That is a rivalry game in St. Louis. This kid's got money already, obviously. And people are like, we should set up a GoFundMe. For what? See, here's the fire I was looking for from Barney. Barney says if that kid doesn't end up head down in a toilet first week of school, then I don't understand the world we live in. That's true, right? He seems like a sweet kid. Seems like a real sweet kid. Yes, sir. Well spoken. He did say some things that he didn't say or think. He repeated some things that were some adult shit. Like talking, like he used some phrase that I'm like, oh, his dad told him to say that. Pursuing my passion. Yeah, he heard an adult say that. And now I don't know if the adult told him to say that but he's not describing his, desire to stand there and do this as I'm pursuing my passion. That's not how a kid talks. So there's some adult influence here. And this is probably all going to be revealed to be a part of some big viral stunt by Dad or whatever. But anyway, bottom line, he seems like a nice kid. He also seems like a bit of a dork. If I'm being honest, seems like a bit of a dork. All right, let's move on. Here we go. Hey, you know what? Dorks do fine in this world. Dorks, people who are dorks at 13 do fine in this world. I mean, my God. Look at Bill Gates. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, dudes were never cool. They're doing just fine. All right, let's leave you with this. Here's the last thing we're going to do today. Did you watch this video of this NASCAR guy? Now, I couldn't watch it. When I first saw it trending on Sunday afternoon, I was like, oh, I see where this is going, and I would stop it because, I don't like to see. It looked like he landed on his head. It looked like he landed on his head and he broke his neck. And I saw this video about an hour after it happened. So he was being rushed to the hospital, and I'm like, oh God, he's got a broken neck. Turns out, no broken neck. Turns out he's fine. It's just a broken collarbone and a bruised ego, because this is embarrassing. This is a young driver. How old is he? Only 20 years old, I think. He is a NASCAR driver by the name of Connor Zilich, and he won a race the other day. Now, I don't know if this is not real NASCAR, right? This is Infinity Series, or Xfinity Series, I guess, which is like, the minor league isn't this the people that race on Saturday nights or something? I don't know. I'm not sure. I just know I've never heard of Connor Zilich before. It says here, NASCAR driver Connor Zilich suffered a broken collarbone after fall, which is great news because we were thinking broken neck. I was thinking he's paralyzed. There's no way he walks away from that. NASCAR driver Connor Zilich suffered a broken collarbone after falling from his vehicle in Victory Lane on Saturday. He said on the Xfinity Series point leader, oh my God, he's the point leader. He's got a broken collarbone. He won the race. He's going to miss races, right? You can't drive a NASCAR with a broken collarbone, can you? Anyway, it seems like that would be the worst. It'd be like trying to ride a jet ski with a broken collarbone. No way. The Xfinity Series point leader had won his 6th race of the season at the Watkins Glen International Racetrack in New York when the accident occurred. After his victory, Zilich was climbing onto the roof of his number 88 Chevy to celebrate. They do that. They climb out and they're like, woohoo! And they stand up on the car and one foot's on the, door, the window frame, and the other one's maybe up on the roof, and they're like, yeah, they're doing that. Yeah, well, he slipped. The foot that was on the window frame part of it slipped, and he went tumbling right onto the hard pavement. After his victory, Zilich was climbing onto the roof of his 88 Chevy to celebrate. A video of the moment shared by the racing news outlet Speedway Digest shows Zilich slipping from the driver's side window where he'd placed his left foot, apparently after catching it in a window netting, before tumbling headfirst onto the ground. Holy shit. Okay, here's a freeze frame picture. I'm going to share this with you. We'll watch the video. But this is why I didn't watch the whole video. I was like, no way, broken neck. No way. Look at that. So he was standing on top of the car and he slipped. You can see his foot right here. It's this foot. This foot got caught in the netting and he struggled and he slipped. And oh my God, look at how he landed on his head. As I said, I thought broken neck. All right, let's watch this video. And you can watch it. I can watch it now. You can watch it. It's only a broken collarbone. I've had a broken, well, actually, I don't think I've had a dislocated collarbone. Anyway, it's not that bad. I know it looks bad, but he's not paralyzed or anything. So, excuse me. So let's watch this. Here it is. Yeah. All right. This is going to be the video. Oh, my goodness. All right.
To Mobile One Victory Lane.
All right, here you go. All right, here he is.
Career wins. Let's go down to Mobile One Victory Lane, Dylan.
Okay, you already saw that foot just slip. Did you see that? Look at his foot. Look at the white foot here. The foot slips. He slides. Watch. What? Slips. Already, it's got a problem. All right, now he's up. He's got both feet. Both feet on the slippery door handle. Now he's gonna put this leg up there. All right. Now he's gonna do the whole. We won. He's excited. Oh, geez, here we go. All right. Ow!
Oh my gosh, he fell.
Unconscious. Thought he was dead.
7 career
Let's
wins.
watch it
Let's
again.
go down to Mobile One Victory Lane, Dylan.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, he fell.
jeez. He's okay.
7 career wins.
Okay.
Let's go down to Mobile One Victory
One more
Lane,
time.
Dylan.
It's terrible. Why am I laughing? Because he's okay. That's why I'm laughing. He's okay. He's embarrassed. He's got a broken collarbone. That's probably going to affect the next few races, but hey, it could have been a lot worse. And how amazing is that? The reason I wanted to show this to you is because I wanted to just one more opportunity for me to point out to you that we do not know that our next breath isn't going to be our last. This is all so fragile. Everything. I mean, I'm talking to you right now, and like I always say, a plane engine can come crashing through, whatever. Look at this guy. He just drove, 500 miles, 300 miles? I don't know what it was. A 300-mile race? Let's say it was a 300-miler there on Saturday night. He just went in a race car for 300 miles, bumper to bumper and trading paint and doing all of that stuff. Something that, normal people would look at and go, I ain't doing that. That could kill me. He not only survived that, but he won it. He was the best of them. And then what does him in? Slipping on a fucking door handle. Almost shattered his neck. That could have been a Christopher Reeve moment. That's how fucking weird life is. Just a race car. This guy was perfectly safe in that race car for 300 miles. And then at the very end, what happens? He slips and almost dies. Crazy world we live in. Yeah, Peter, the same thing that Christopher Reeve, man. That could have been a Christopher Reeve moment. And I mean, it was such a brutal looking fall. Even the announcers, oh my God. I mean, I laugh now because now it's a funny looking fall because, he's fine. Oh, he's not fine. He's got a broken collarbone. Oh, he's fine. I didn't watch the whole video on day one, the day it happened. I didn't watch the whole video because I saw him fall and I went, nope, don't need to. I thought he was dead. I thought he was a broken neck. So we're okay now. We're okay. All right. What else do I have? Let's see here. Going to watch the news tonight. Going to be watching the news all night tonight. I want to see what's happening in Washington, D.C. Will there be an incident between the people of Washington, D.C. and the now federalized Washington Police Department backed up by, I guess, National Guard? I don't know. Maybe sent in on street corners. And again, why can't we send those down to down to Austin? I mean, why can't we do something similar to stop what is happening every single weekend night in Austin, Texas? I don't know. We just put up with it, I guess. All right, guys, we're going to be out doing trivia tomorrow. So I want to remind you, tomorrow is trivia night. Who wants to come and try and take on Hector? Hector is our reigning trivia champion. Every Tuesday night, we do it 7:30 p.m., 4060 Beltline Road. It is the back nine in Addison. Trash trivia with yours truly. It's been growing week to week. I'm starting to feel really good about it. And possibly, not possibly, I just can't announce it yet. New locations for trivia. Oh, yeah, we're doing more nights. So that's exciting. So come on out tomorrow, 7:30 if you want to play trivia. Bring a team or come by yourself. We don't care. We're not dicks about it. If you show up and you just want to be a one-on-one, you just want to do trivia by yourself, one brain, fine. You come down, you got a table of 4 people, you want to do one card for 4 people, we're fine with that too. I don't care. It's never been a problem. And anybody who complains, shut up. Don't complain. This is about fun. That's tomorrow night, 7:30, 4060 Beltline Road. Trash trivia. Every Tuesday night at 7:30 at the back nine. I guess that's it, guys. So what do I need to tell you? I think that's it. All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye-bye now.